Welcome back, fellow human beings. This is Ronie Protacio, and welcome to the Art of Being Humans. This is Module 2B. At the end of this video, the learners are expected to Number 1, explain how the different ideological state apparatuses can influence people's behavior and attitudes. Number 2, discuss how Filipino communities were educated before formal education came to be. Number 3, differentiate the sciences from the humanities. And number 4, discuss the different paradigms for learning in the sciences and in the humanities. Now, fellow human beings, let us talk about the ideological state apparatuses. The what? Sounds like a sci-fi movie. Anyway, the term was developed by the Marxist theorist Louis Althusser. Ideological state apparatuses are institutions such as education, the churches, family, media, trade unions, and law, which were formally outside state control but served to transmit the values of the state, to interpolate those individuals affected by them, and to maintain order in a society. Above all, to reproduce capitalist relations of production. These institutions utilize art and language to influence and teach people. Schools and educational institutions for Louis Althusser are part of the ideological state apparatus because they prepare working class pupils to accept a life of exploitation. A lot of things we tackle in school actually prepares us to work for businesses owned by capitalists. That's why you will notice everything is standardized. Students are expected to behave in a certain way. Education separates the smart and intelligent from the stupid and the uneducated. We all know that a student's capability and success cannot be measured by his grades alone. Our grades don't define us, but grades are actually used to separate the intelligent from the stupid. Let's go back to the time before we were colonized. How do you think we were educated? Before colonization, the people were the center of every Filipino community. The early Filipino inhabitants were mostly river dwellers. That is where the term Taga-Ilog came to be and later on became Tagalog. We were educated through rituals and beliefs using oral tradition. Using art and language, important knowledge was passed on from one generation to another. Our ancestors used songs, poetry, riddles, proverbs, epic stories, myths, legends, and folklore in teaching the essential things we need for survival. There was urban restructuring when the Spanish conquerors arrived. People were migrated from the riverbanks to live around the plaza where all important control institutions were placed. The Taga-Ilogs were now called Tagabayan. Control institutions like the church, the marketplace, the school, and the municipal building were strategically placed around the plaza. The bayan became the center of the community where colonizers were free to observe and monitor the Tagabayan anytime. Those living outside the bayan are the Tagabukid, whose purpose is to provide food for the Tagabayan. There were those who opposed this setup and went to the mountains to fight the oppressive system. They are the Tagabundok, who were later branded as hereje, subversives, and outlaws. The church controlled education, also using art and language through oral traditions. They observed that the Filipinos were fond of poetry, so they used it to indoctrinate us. May Bagyo Ba't May Rilim is one of the earliest Tagalog poems ever to be published. It was a book printed in the year 1605. The poet is unknown. A copy of the poem is found on page 9 of Module 2. This poem clearly emphasized the need to trust and have faith in God, the Bible, and the priests. Through this poem, the early Filipinos were indoctrinated in the Catholic faith. From poetry came the Pasyon, or the Pabasa. The text is an adaptation of the pre-Hispanic Filipino art of chanting epic poems as part of our oral tradition. After Christianity was introduced by the Spaniards, the Pasyon cycle was adopted into this native narrative form. The indigenous form of the Pasyon was first written down by Gaspar Aquino de Belen in Ang Mahal na Pasyon ni Jesucristong Panginoon natin na tula, The Sacred Passion of Jesus Christ our Lord, that is a poem, written in 1703 and approved in 1704. From the Pabasa came the Sinaculo. It is a dramatic reenactment of the Passion. Just like the Passion, we witness this during Holy Week in our communities. Drama became the platform for the Sinaculo because the Spanish conquerors observed that Filipinos are fond of watching live drama. This idea was pushed further by the creation of the Comedia or the Moro-Moro. The Comedia is a stage performance depicting the war between the Muslims and the Christians. Guess who always wins? Your guess is as good as mine. This may have started our fear and prejudice among the Muslims, and this idea stuck with us through the miseducation given to us by the conquerors. Religion used art and language to teach about good versus evil, about right versus wrong, and about being moral versus being immoral. Of course, in this case, Christianity is always projected as the good, the right, and the moral. All the rest are the opposite. Another ideological state apparatus, and I guess the most powerful, is mass media. Because of mass media, people become so self-conscious about their appearance and feel bad if they don't look like the models they see on TV or the internet. Everything we do is influenced by mass media. Mass media also uses art and language primarily to sell products. It also sets certain standards, especially on the concept of beauty, which is far from reality. Here's the sad truth. In the end, it's the capitalist who wins. So, education, religion, and mass media are the three biggest ideological state apparatuses that creates a big impact on our culture. These institutions utilize art and language to influence us. And sometimes, whatever we are now, our beliefs, our attitudes, even the decisions we make, are products of these big institutions. In Module 2A, we tackled the things we actually study in school. And we said that generally in school, we study about nature and culture, or specifically, we study the natural sciences and the social sciences. Now, we are going to talk about the two general fields of learning. These two are learning the sciences and learning the humanities. Learning the sciences deals with the natural and physical phenomenon, while learning the humanities deals with the human phenomenon. What's the paradigm for learning in the sciences? First, we start with the subject, who is also the knower. This subject or knower learns about an object or the known, and this is done using the scientific method. Remember the scientific method? This is how the scientists learn about things in the world. The paradigm for learning in the humanities is a bit different. We have a subject or the knower, and this subject or knower is also the object and the known. This method is known as reflexive method. Therefore, the humanist learns about himself. So the difference between the scientist and the humanist is that the scientist learns about the things in the world, while the humanist learns about himself. Since the beginning of time, man was already on a quest to discover himself and to know himself. There were a lot of philosophers and thinkers whose thoughts were the basis of the humanistic methods. We have Socrates who said, "Know thyself." Then there was Augustine who said, "Withdraw into yourself. Truth dwells in the inner man." These two philosophers are considered men of wisdom. Studying the humanities makes one a wise man, while studying the science makes a person a learned man. In other words, science gives us knowledge, while humanities gives us wisdom. Thales of Miletus once said, "A scientist tends to know everything about the world that he forgets to know anything about himself." Sad, but true. That is why the basic question in the study of the humanities is, who am I? By not knowing the answer to the question, who am I, you are creating new identities of yourself, consequently going further away from your true self. All the suffering in life is because of not knowing your true identity. Until you realize your true self, you believe yourself to be just the name that has been given to you. Have you ever asked yourself, who am I really? Am I a father, a husband, a friend, a student, a passenger, or a patient? The truth is, you are a father because you have a son. You are a husband because you have a wife. A passenger because you are on a train. Therefore, all your identities, everything you believe yourself to be, are all dependent on something else. So then, who are you? Tell us who you are inside and out by writing your thoughts about it in our Edmodo writing activity. So, that's about it, my fellow human beings. This ends our discussion in Module 2, Art as a Humanistic Discipline. If you find this video useful, please like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Art of Human Beings Being Humans, and hit that bell button for more videos. Thank you very much. And remember, being humans, we become human beings through the arts. Mabuhay!